another edition of EBMG's Melanated News You Can Use. I am your host, Lady Lila Brown, and I'm so excited about a lot of the stories that I was able to get this week, last week, in the past couple of days. Lots of good information. I'm trying to get to it all, but we had some breaking news yesterday that I wanted to just sit down and really discuss. And then there's some things that are going on still in Los Angeles that I wanted to point out. The entire region in terms of environmental justice. Had a chance to sit with and speak with the EPA regional administrator, so that was great. Got a quick little interview there. Again, Donald Trump on federal charges indicted for January 6th. And then there's this congressional hearing story with the aliens are real. Everybody's talking about it. All those stories in between. So much going on. And as always, I'm going to discuss reparations because as we continue to have this housing crisis throughout Los Angeles and the state of California and really the nation, these reparations, recommendations, and proposals, it's not just for California. There's also a national component in how these things can be implemented nationwide. Then we have some international stories I can't wait to get into. Lots of things happening around the world. So we're going to try to get to it all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. As always, I want to take some time to invite my friends. We'll get into the top story. I want to listen in to the charges with Donald Trump, former U.S. president, and really figure out what's going on there. Just listening. Like I said, so much news, and then these things are coming out, and I've been keeping up with it from, not just January 6th, but there's voter fraud as well and voter tampering, and it goes beyond Georgia. So how widespread was this thing? I believe I heard Rudy Giuliani's name a part of this, but this is just solely on Trump. And then there's other people that are being, maybe like witnesses and testimonies. We'll get into it. So let's listen. Going with the alien Israel story. That's a really big thing as well. Again, homelessness in Los Angeles. And I'm going to take some time to invite my people in. So thank you. I appreciate you all. And then we'll get into it. These are some of the top stories. But yes, we're going to start with former U.S. President Donald Trump indicted on federal charges in January 6th case.
Good evening. Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding. The indictment was issued by a grand jury of citizens here in the District of Columbia, and it sets forth the crimes charged in detail. I encourage everyone to read it in full. The attack on our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021 was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. As described in the indictment, it was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election. The men and women of law enforcement who defended the U.S. Capitol on January 6th are heroes. They are patriots and they are the very best of us. They did not just defend a building or the people sheltering in it. They put their lives on the line to defend who we are as a country and as a people. They defended the very institutions and principles that define the United States. Since the attack on our Capitol, the Department of Justice has remained committed to ensuring accountability for those criminally responsible for what happened that day. This case is brought consistent with that commitment, and our investigation of other individuals continues. In this case, my office will seek a speedy trial so that our evidence can be tested in court and judged by a jury of citizens. In the meantime, I must emphasize that the indictment is only an allegation and that the defendant must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. I would like to thank the members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation who are working on this investigation with my office, as well as the many career prosecutors and law enforcement agents from around the country who have worked on previous January 6th investigations. These women and men are public servants of the very highest order, and it is a privilege to work alongside them. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm sure that's really it. He just gonna get out like that? And he's off? Really? Really? That sucks. Okay. Yeah, all right, sure. Okay, so that's pretty much what I expected. I don't think I expected anything more than that. Good to know. So, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about where we're supposed to be. So great. I'm going to keep the stories rolling as best I can, but oh my gosh, this is a really, really serious deal. Because, well, I just saw another report from AP about the judge that's going to be utilized for this prosecution, and this is very interesting. But it is very, very worth noting that all the naysayers and skeptics who just kind of, I don't know what's going on with the voting bloc, but they just think that these people can get away with anything and say, oh, they could just, storm the Capitol. There's no consequences. People are going to jail. Like, are y'all not paying attention? People are going to jail. That's happening. So let's not forget. But that's huge. It's so quick. And I believe this particular charge, from what I'm hearing, even though people are saying it's not gonna happen, but facing up to 20 years. And I have to say I believe because, that's what they said, but doesn't mean it's gonna happen. So it's not even a point to kind of, say that's certain, because that's not likely. But this man has so many. So I believe this is his third indictment. I'm just not keeping up with it because I'm like, just lock him up already and throw away the key. But at the same time, it's important. But it's like, this is open and shut. Like, let's move on. I want to talk about some more definitive things here. So this man is just out of control, and thank goodness for the bureaucrats. Thank you for all of the city, state, county, whoever employees that are getting this done. The people, I love that he said, like, look, this is happening. If y'all want to go and read it, because they've been so really good with public information and public record. So if y'all want to go and contest this and he didn't do anything wrong, please get out of Dodge, like get out of town. So my report is going to be very simple today because I am also, getting stories out there, but I did want to listen in on this UFO. I keep coming back to that because this is worth discussing, and thank goodness it's not too crazy of news because usually this time of year we'll be dealing with a lot of wildfires. I think there's some wildfires popping up, but it's not just out of control so far. So I'm going to just keep with the stories, but I do want to shoot over local news in Los Angeles because a lot of COVID-19 protections are expiring. Things that protected both the tenants and the landlords from suing these tenants. There was rental assistance, there was all kind of help and support and understanding that this pandemic is at no fault of the people, of the citizens, of the residents. So thank you. Hi, thank you. Love it. Thank you. I'm getting it together. Look, we survived. We survived the pandemic. Can I get a witness here? Yay. Yes, so this is post-pandemic and pretty much doing the same thing, reporting the news, telling the news, but now I'm going out and getting my own original story. So I do appreciate everyone that donates, that helps me along the way, and understanding what it is for me to be independent. And it's not the easiest thing in the world to go and get these stories and really hear from the politicians, hear from the newsmakers, hear from people on the ground, talk to, eyewitnesses. That kind of stuff requires a lot of support. So I do thank you, but we are getting it done. I want to get it done. And then we do have reparations. So you want to know something beautiful for those that really support me, and I do appreciate you. With the Reparations Task Force, I became acquainted with the chairwoman who was pretty much, leading the meetings and, just the flow of how this process works. And I'm seeing her around Los Angeles a lot now. So I'm just so thankful that when these reparation conversations were getting really heated online and people were upset and I kept my cool, she kept her cool. They even tried to get me to throw her under the bus. Or just whatever. But I'm like, no, she's doing an amazing job. She's following Robert's Rules of Order. She is an attorney, and just the chairwoman who got this done. I'm gonna keep revisiting her work. We're breaking it down, and you never know. Like, I'm happy for my contribution that I was able to get involved, to learn more, and then come back and disseminate this news information to you all. So that's the latest with California Reparations Task Force. We're going to get into the housing, and maybe we'll get into another section because I kind of want to talk about the money aspect of it and the cash and the proposals, but this is going to come through so many different ways. So we're going to start with housing because that's the most pressing issue for Los Angeles. And for those that understand indigenous rights, sovereign rights, and American Indian displacement and removal, evictions is just the fancy word for Indian removal. Confiscation of land, eminent domain, all these things that hurt our communities are just really fancy terms. So thank you, welcome. And I'm going to continue, think about it. The person that's over the Reparations Task Force and I have become acquainted, and we see each other and there's mutual respect. So who else is going to get y'all this news information? A lot of news organizations will break this up into maybe 3-minute clips, but we're going to go through the documentation. We've already went through HR 40. You that follow me, and thank you so much for continuing to do so. But we're going to continue leveling up. We're going to scale up, and we're going to have a lot of resources, and we're going to thank the Los Angeles mayor who is basically giving resources coming from being a congresswoman to our little bitty old city, second largest city in the United States politics. You want to get involved with city politics and everything. I mean, I just have to say this. We wish we could all do that, right? For those that have left our hometowns or maybe done other things in the world and traveled, we all wish that we could go back home, do we not? And not only that, but this is the indigenous way. This is the way I was taught. You go out into the world and you bring resources back home to your people because she has the knowledge, okay? She has the skill, the expertise. She has the relationships. She must have really used her time well while she was in the U.S. Congress. So I'm gonna keep the news stories going. And thank you. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass announced resources for back rent repayment. Are your cities doing these things? Oh, wait, let's make sure here. So that's the story that's coming up. Excuse me here. I play around with a lot of different microphones. So, yeah. So that's her. Okay, first and foremost, fashion choice. Yes, yes, yes. Lime. That's what I called it a light pastel lime cream. Come to find out, it does have its own Pantone. So as you saw our lovely mayor there, I want to make sure we got the microphones going good. So thank you. Yes. So think about it. This is the question I was leading into the video. A lot of people were not able to sustain their lifestyle during COVID-19 because they were laid off, and a lot of people fell behind on the rent, but there was rental assistance, through this pandemic. So that's all expired now. Remember, COVID is not over. COVID's not over, but a lot of the protections have expired. And so a lot of people are just callous and cruel, and they lack compassion. Oh, just let them whatever. They need to pay back their rent, tell them to get a job. But everyone just does not have the same privileges and opportunities. So I really appreciate this mayor coming in and saying, all right, let's stop, putting the Band-Aid and then causing further harm. We do things to solve and then we create more issues. She's saying let's get ahead of homelessness. Let's prevent homelessness. Let's make sure those that already have some type of living situation, they continue to stay housed. So that's the name of the program. And again, with this being the second largest city in the United States and all the major U.S. mayors throughout the country are talking, they're working together, they're collaborating, they're finding best practices. I really do appreciate that. So we're gonna now, everything should be straight, but we're going to go into it. And I do have to note the fashion choice there. It looks amazing, great. But back rent repayment.
Tomorrow, many in our city are facing eviction because of the expiration of certain COVID-19 rental protections. But that is not the headline of today. The headline is that for the first time, the city is taking a coordinated, proactive approach to assisting Angelenos to stay inside. Our message today to Angelenos is clear. Do not self-evict. If you receive a notice, file a response. And most importantly, reach out to the city for support. We are doing everything we can to move people off of the streets and into housing. But we know that we will only be able to solve our city homelessness crisis if we work to prevent people from falling into homelessness in the first place. Just about a month ago, we saw the homeless count from last year, and we know that it has gone up. We want to make sure that doesn't happen next year, but we're very concerned about the fact that many more people could fall into homelessness, which is why I've been working with our partners on the City Council, as well as the Housing Department and the Mayor's Fund, to prepare this unprecedented approach of proactive outreach directly to tenants and landlords at risk of eviction, and work to ensure that tenants and landlords have the resources they need during this important time. This is historic because of the targeted approach, which is possible because of language passed by the City Council earlier this year. So I want to acknowledge our leader here on this issue, Councilmember Nikki Rahman, for her leadership in Council to make that happen, and her pledge to continue to work together to see this through. Ann Sewell, who is not here with us today, but Anna Ortega is, but I want to acknowledge our General Manager of the Housing Department for working with us to ensure that resources and services are available for those who need them. And Conway Collis, who is the President and CEO of the Mayor's Fund for Los Angeles, for the work that he is doing with the program We Are LA to ensure that the services actually get to those people who need them. I also want to acknowledge the courts for being open and receptive to the idea of helping get resources to those in need in a way that hasn't been done before, and I know that the council member will have more to say about that. With the August 1st deadline coming tomorrow, we are working around the clock to ensure that LA tenants know their rights and that resources are available to help in this difficult time. But as we've seen during the pandemic, simply providing resources is not enough. We have to make sure Angelenos actually know that the resources are available and get the resources. So earlier this year, the city launched a public information campaign that targeted Angelenos in high-risk zip codes. Ads were in multiple languages. They ran on the radio, in community papers, and even on food trucks. Of course, we also ran ads on social media platforms. But we need direct contact in addition to that, which is why the Mayor's Fund is working with the Housing Department. It is important to note that this work does not stop here, and it does not stop today. This is a sustained effort. In the coming days, the City Council will consider proposals from my office to utilize measured ULA dollars to fund rental assistance, including a short-term emergency assistance program, an eviction defense prevention program, a tenant outreach and education program, and a protections from tenant harassment program to educate tenants as well as landlords about their rights. We will continue to lock arms with our partners to solve this crisis so that everyone in Los Angeles has a safe place to sleep at night and that no one is sleeping on the streets. I want to close by emphasizing that our goal, again, is to keep people in their homes. And today is that there is help available and that the city is taking unprecedented actions to keep Angelenos inside and to make sure that landlords, especially small landlords, do not go into foreclosure. So
Great. Yes, she is getting the job done. I can greatly appreciate that. Great. So the mayor, oh, she's stepping in. Uh-oh. All right. We're good here. We're good. All right. Thank y'all for being here and tuning in. I really appreciate you all. I just really thought that story was important because a lot of places are not as compassionate when it comes to, how to deal with homelessness. Some want to criminalize homelessness, and I just like her approach. It's so comprehensive, it's compassionate, and it's something that other places can hopefully preventing homelessness, so you don't have to get people off the streets. Maybe it'll be more affordable and cost effective to keep people where they are, so you don't have to go and tap into these homelessness resources. So she's using the mayor's fund. I think that is genius. Let me know if you're still here with me. Please comment. And I appreciate you all. Great. So I'm gonna keep these stories rolling. Yeah, it's really simple this week. There's a lot, but because I put so much on my YouTube, make sure you check out my YouTube Ella B Media Group, and then also my website ellabmediagroup.com. And that's where I give full details and full information, and we go from there. And eventually we'll get over into the aliens are real story. So I'm gonna be intently listening, okay? And I know some of you guys come in and out of the broadcast, but I'm really listening. I'm listening for how serious is this story. So please comment. Let me know what you think. Have you heard the congressional hearing the information about aliens? And I think they're calling them unidentified aerial phenomenon right now. So unidentified flying objects, I think we can't call that anymore because they identified that it is indeed aliens. So they're saying it is indeed aliens. So welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I'm going to go eventually to that story. I think it's a lot longer. I know everyone's just wanting to get the highlights. What were the key findings? What is this? It's a whistleblower who's coming out with the aliens are real. So we're going to get into that. We talked about it last time on my broadcast. We're just about a year out from the Paris Olympics, which I'm looking forward to get ready for. So eventually you'll probably start to see a whole lot more international news coming from me. Yeah, that Donald Trump issue is very, very, very interesting to watch. It's like almost finally, it's a little bit of thank goodness for due process. And then we're going to get into the reparations because I want to make sure I'm not missing something. Welcome. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for letting me know you're here. Thank you for letting me know you're still here with me. And what do you think about some of these stories? And I really want y'all to stick around, so feel free to invite some friends. So far, the broadcast is going smoothly, so I do appreciate those of you who check back in. They check out our new format, new look, a lot of new looks. And we're just trying to keep upgrading so I can get you some real serious, important information, and we can still have fun. We can still do our thing. And sometimes I have side conversations away from my news reporting and information sharing and gathering, so we can have some like really serious conversations, but they're a little bit more social and personal because you guys know I love to share and I love my life. So I like to share details about my life. I don't know why I feel like that, but I hope to be an inspiration because when you're going out there and you're doing things in the world, sometimes I just like to share my personal philosophy. I like to share some of my personal results and how things are working for me in real time. And so we're surviving post-pandemic. This world has changed a lot, but some things remain the same. So there's that. And I did want to check in with this EPA story because, as you know, I will get into indigenous rights, talking about land rights. That's a big story for me as well. Awesome. And it's getting close, so I don't like to kind of speak ahead of some things that I see developing, but this is hopefully just a precursor for some other news and information that is happening. And because indigenous rights are becoming more mainstream and we are following these cases, a lot of this has to do with giving the land back, allowing the indigenous tribes to also help steward the land, help take care of nature. Because without their stewardship and knowledge of how to really properly take care of the land, just according to tribal law, maybe these things can also aid in the fight against, global warming, climate change, all of the wildfires and all these other things. Maybe listening to indigenous communities would help aid in the stewardship and caring for the land in a way that it's just not all about profit and gain. But what can we do to be better people and natives to the land?
I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the socioeconomic factors that lead to certain communities being dump sites and waste hazard. Why? Why are these sites chosen?
Oh.
Is it because the people can't fight back? And how does EPA protect them?
Oh, you're going way back. I mean, really, this could be traced back to many of our origins, be it slavery or be it the taking of indigenous lands here in the West. Really, I just, you name it. We see where all of these facilities are, and we know that race is the largest determinant of pollution. That is a fact. So what are we doing as part of the Biden administration is we have that front of mind, that equity and environmental justice, we have to invest in these communities because we have to be intentional about dealing with those generations of neglect and land use decisions that led to a disparate impact to our communities.
So some civil rights there?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so with indigenous rights, and EPA having so many similar issues, are these departments working together and how?
Yes, we have an entire division dealing with tribal governments. There's brownfields today, like we saw here. I was just very happy this week to be in Flagstaff, New Mexico, where we are opening our office that's going to be primarily dedicated to many of the tribal nations that have been dealing with uranium waste. I'm sure you've been watching. Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. There's been some real critique from the indigenous community on this new film, Oppenheimer, because they're not telling the story about how the generation of that uranium caused extreme environmental damage to this day to many communities, including many nations, like the Navajo Nation, and the amount of uranium waste that still remains in their communities.
And you're noting the record temperatures in California. We have issues with wildfires.
Yeah.
I mean, and then sometimes there's neglect from companies. I think you talked, or someone said something about neglect.
Mm-hmm.
How do we hold these companies accountable? It's after the fact, usually with lawsuits, but how do we prevent this?
Well, here's a couple of strategies we're doing at the EPA right now. We talked today about an investment strategy, right, to kind of heal some of those legacy issues. But our number one priority is enforcement, making sure that our laws are being enforced. Now, Supreme Court's taking away some of that, so we got to fight every day for that. And we have to make sure that our permits are strong. on the outset. You know, we're making sure things like financial assurances are not like they were before, and companies just going into bankruptcy. So that's a big piece of our solution now, is a better permitting, better rulemaking, so that the rules are more comprehensive on the outset, and enforcement. Enforcement is absolutely the key.
Well, see, the campaigns against Biden want to eliminate. Mike Pence said he wants to eliminate EPO.
Yes,
how can this
yeah.
be? Like,
Yes.
what, you know,
Well,
how do you just get rid of an agency that's
You
so
know,
important?
I hope that the unfortunate tragedies that have occurred this year, like in Ohio, where the train derailment happened, in a demographic that is largely Republican, and we saw some Senate leadership on the Republican side looking for more environmental protection, because, you know, it's like some of our leadership on the other side of the aisle has said. I was just in Fresno with a mayor who's Republican, and he said, responding to this latest heat wave, we all sweat the same. You know, black, brown, yellow, white, it doesn't matter. We are all being impacted by climate change. And we're impacted by lack of enforcement on regulations, like we saw with the railroad incident. So I think there's some silver lining to the crisis that we're in that people are realizing it's not a partisan issue.
Okay, final question. Nature preserves and indigenous rights. When we find these green spaces, when we do the history, we find out they did belong to indigenous
Of course.
groups. How can green spaces be allotted to the indigenous tribes, or how can they work together for stewardship?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I would say the state of California has really led in this regard with co-management of many resources. Some of their state parks are now co-managed with the nations that they were the original ancestral lands of. And so I hope to see that kind of partnership develop here in Los Angeles. And I know that the Conservancy has some of the native leadership on there, which is a great.
I'm always asked about just environmental rights, indigenous protection. I'm gonna always ask about that because I think the Biden administration really admitting that they need some help maintaining these areas, and all of this overtaking of the land, the landlords, and giving it to just private donors. I think these things really, really hurt regions. It hurts nature. It hurts communities. It just is bad for the environment. So environmental justice is the name of the game. And as you can see, my first question was, our communities, impoverished communities, are always the ones where the dumping of hazardous waste and really no one caring, about how things are flooding into these communities, or there's just, I've just seen some bad play and bad practices throughout the country. I mean, you can even go, especially in the South. I mean, the whole issue with the septic tanks and just dumping, or just not really giving the proper resources. We see water issues in Flint, Michigan, the Dakota Access Pipeline really hurting the water. So it's just so many different issues, different communities. But I feel, that's what I was really trying to dig more into in learning. And so, again, great. I also have some stories out there that are in some of the Black-owned newspapers throughout the state of California. So feel free to check that out. Just, if I share links, feel free to check out the links. Really good stories, really good news. Not everything I do is always visual. Sometimes we don't have audio. We just have the printing press, the published word. So I do a lot of mixed media here. So thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you all tuning in, giving likes, shares, all that good stuff. So I kind of want to get into the aliens are real story. I'm going to get into it briefly. And then, maybe there's some highlights. I doubt it. But this is the latest. From what I understand so far, that there was a whistleblower who was part of a government task force. And so there's this whistleblower who's telling Congress the U.S. is concealing, he says, multi-decade program that captures UFOs. Okay. Great. and everybody's talking about it. So I thought, let me look into it. Let me, since I like to take time on my broadcast to kind of skim through it, I really want to hear his testimony. The U.S. is concealing a long-standing program that retrieves and reverse engineers unidentified flying objects. Okay, this is what a former Air Force intelligence officer testified Wednesday to Congress. This is probably about a week ago. The Pentagon has denied his claims. Okay, so how much further can we go with this story? Because the Pentagon has denied his claims. So the retired major is named David Grusk. Highly anticipated testimony. Some people have been waiting for this, and the day has come and gone, and doesn't seem to cause much effect. So I guess everybody's going to take the Pentagon's word for it. Before a House Oversight Subcommittee, Congress' latest foray into the world of UAPs, which again they're called unidentified aerial phenomena, which is the official term the U.S. government uses instead of UFOs, because I just think that probably just went to crazy town for them, and so they needed a rebranding. The key word here being unidentified. So while the study of mysterious aircraft, and I'm reading here from PBS, they're so amazing. They're noting that Democrats and Republicans in recent years have pushed for more research as a national security matter due to concerns that sightings observed by pilots may be tied to U.S. adversaries. The internet is eating this up. But so, according to Grusk here, he said he was asked in 2019 by the head of a government task force on UAPs to identify all highly classified programs related to the task force mission. At the time, he was detailed to the National Reconnaissance Office. The Pentagon again denying claims of a cover-up. So in a statement, the Defense Department, they basically said investigators have not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims. I don't know why the head of a government agency would tell somebody to do that and then they not have the support of the Pentagon. But what's happening here? Is this a distraction? What's really going on? Would love to get your thoughts about it. Aliens are real now, according to this government whistleblower. He says he became a government whistleblower after his discovery. He would face a lot of retaliation for coming forward. I don't understand. This is not making sense. A lot of things y'all be saying. Y'all also said Tyler Perry bought BET, and that was not the case. He declined to be more specific about the retaliatory tactics because it's still an ongoing investigation. Again, so, oh, goodness gracious. Maybe we'll just listen to his opening testimony. What is really going on? You get what I'm saying? Like, so the subcommittee in the House. All right, let's see. This is remarks. Maybe we'll just listen to his opening statement. And I don't want to judge because if the Pentagon's denied it, how much further this is going to go. This is not making sense now. So the UFO congressional hearing explores unexplained aerial phenomena. This man said he was tasked. So then I don't understand why. Is it because there was a change in the politics? What's going on? Is it new players in town? Like, where's his backup? Like, you don't just tell somebody to go do some stuff like this because, of course, they're going to be identified as crazy. What's going on? This is not making sense. This is not making sense to me.
I'll now recognize Mr. Graves for 5 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. Chairman Grothman, Ranking Member Garcia, distinguished members of the House Oversight Subcommittee on National Security, Representatives Burchett and Luna. My name is Ryan Fobbs Graves, and I'm a former F-18 pilot with a decade of service in the U.S. Navy, including 2 deployments in Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Inherent Resolve. I have experienced advanced UAP firsthand, and I'm here to voice the concerns of more than 30 commercial aircrew and military veterans who have confided their similar encounters with me. Today, I would like to highlight 3 critical issues that demand our action. As we convene here, UAP are in our airspace, but they are grossly underreported. These sightings are not rare or isolated, they are routine. Military aircrew and commercial pilots, trained observers whose lives depend on accurate identification, are frequently witnessing these phenomena. The stigma attached to UAP is real and powerful and challenges national security. It silences commercial pilots who fear professional repercussions, discourages witnesses, and is only compounded by recent government claims questioning the credibility of eyewitness testimony. Parts of our government are aware of more about UAP than they let on, but excessive classification practices keep crucial information hidden. Since 2021, all UAP videos are classified as secret or above. This level of secrecy not only impedes our understanding, but fuels speculation and mistrust. In 2014, I was an F-18 Foxtrot pilot in the Navy Fighter Attack Squadron 11, the Red Rippers, and was stationed at NAS Oceana in Virginia Beach. After upgrades were made to our jet's radar systems, we began detecting unknown objects operating in our airspace. At first, we assumed they were radar errors, but soon we began to correlate the radar tracks with multiple onboard sensors, including infrared systems, eventually through visual ID. During a training mission in Warning Area Whiskey 72, 10 miles off the coast of Virginia Beach, two F-18 Super Hornets were split by a UAP. The object, described as a dark gray or a black cube inside of a clear sphere, came within 50 feet of the lead aircraft and was estimated to be 5 to 15 feet in diameter. The mission commander terminated the flight immediately and returned to base. Our squadron submitted a safety report, but there was no official acknowledgement of the incident and no further mechanism to report the sightings. Soon, these encounters became so frequent that aircrew would discuss the risk of UAP as part of their regular pre-flight briefs. Recognizing the need for action and answers, I founded Americans for Safe Aerospace. The organization has since become a haven for UAP witnesses who were previously unspoken due to the absence of a safe intake process. More than 30 witnesses have come forward, and almost 5,000 Americans have joined us in the fight for transparency at safeaerospace.org. The majority of witnesses are commercial pilots at major airlines. Often, they are veterans with decades of flying experience. Pilots are reporting UAP at altitudes that appear above them at 40,000 feet, potentially in low Earth orbit or in the gray zone below the Kármán line, making inexplainable maneuvers like right-hand turns and retrograde orbits or J-hooks. Sometimes these reports are reoccurring, with numerous recent sightings in Hawaii and in the North Atlantic. Other veterans are
Okay, great. So that's one of the testimonies. I do want to hear from that. I just want to make sure we're still going on good here. All right. Cool. All right. Okay, so I just want to make sure we're still going good here. I'm bringing all this news and information together. And so I really want to get to the main whistleblower's testimony. So I might skim through, just a heads up. I really want to get to this because everyone's talking about it. Everyone's saying, oh, aliens are real now, and no one's having a reaction. Well, this is a lot of information. So far, it seems like these pilots have seen things because they're up there and not sure why they're being made to seem like they are crazy, what's going on. But this could be another distraction. This is very interesting. So I'm just taking this, I'm reviewing it. We're going to get into an international story. And, we'll see if we can wrap up with some more information on the latest recommendation proposals from the California Reparations Task Force. Because I'm looking at homelessness, and maybe we'll look into another key issue. We'll see. But this is highly interesting. I'm listening. I'm still not understanding why someone would be a part of a UFO task force to figure out what's going on. You have to say, okay, why am I given this assignment? This is crazy. People are going to think I'm crazy. Or you may even look at the person making the request as, are you crazy? And now they're coming out. They're doing this whistleblow thing. They're not getting any backup and support from the Pentagon nor the Defense Department. So again, this causes distrust. And then I'm just thinking, like, this is all coordinated effort. So this is not making sense to me. I know people think that this is real. I'm kind of not buying it. I'm going to be honest. That was Mr. Graves. Let's see here. And so we're going to hear from the main whistleblower. If that's all right with you all, thank you for still listening. Do you think the UFOs are real? Is this just another hoax? Is this yet another thing to keep us distracted? What's really going on? And I don't know, maybe you've never heard this information. Maybe you didn't know that they had a congressional meeting about this. But we're gonna listen to, the whistleblower here. So that's somebody, I think these people are credible, but what's going on? Why aren't they getting any backup? The UFO congressional hearing explores unexplained flying, not even unidentified, it's unexplained now. Unexplained flying objects. Let's get to it.
Guys, it is long overdue. Thank you.
Mr. Rush?
Mr. Chairman, ranking members and congressmen, thank you. I'm happy to be here. This is an important issue and I'm grateful for your time. My name is David Charles Grush. I was an intelligence officer for 14 years, both in the U.S. Air Force, both active duty, Air National Guard and Reserve, at the rank of major, and most recently from 2021 to 2023, at the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NGA, at the GS-15 civilian level, which is the military equivalent of a full bird colonel. I was my agency's co-lead in unidentified anomalous phenomena and transmedium object analysis, as well as reporting to the UAP task force, UAPTF, and eventually, once it was established, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. I became a whistleblower through a PPD 19 urgent concern filing in May 2022 with the Intelligence Community Inspector General. Following concerning reports from multiple esteemed and credentialed current and former military and intelligence community individuals that the U.S. government is operating with secrecy above congressional oversight with regards to UAPs. My testimony is based on information I've been given by individuals with a long-standing track record of legitimacy and service to this country. Many of whom also have shared compelling evidence in the form of photography, official documentation, and classified oral testimony to myself and my various colleagues. I have taken every step I can to corroborate this evidence over a period of 4 years while I was with the UAP Task Force and do my due diligence on the individual sharing it. This is because of these steps, I believe strongly in the importance of bringing this information before you. I am driven by a commitment of both to truth and transparency, rooted in our inherent duty to uphold the United States Constitution and protect the American people. I'm asking Congress to hold our government to this standard and thoroughly investigate these claims. But as I stand here under oath now, I am speaking to the facts as I've been told them. In the U.S. Air Force, in my National Reconnaissance Office, NRO, reservist capacity, I'm a member of the UAP Force from 2019 to 2021. I served at the NRO Operations Center on the Director's briefing staff, which included the coordination of the Presidential Daily Brief and supporting variety of contingency operations, which I was the Reserve Intelligence Division Chief of Backup. In 2019, the UAP Task Force Director asked me to identify all special access programs and controlled access programs, also known as SAPs and CAPs. We needed to satisfy our congressionally mandated mission, and we were direct report at the time to the DepSecDef. At the time, due to my extensive executive level intelligence support duties, I was cleared to literally all relevant compartments and in a position of extreme trust, both in my military and civilian capacities. I was informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program, to which I was denied access to those additional read-ons when I requested it. I made the decision, based on the data I collected, to report this information to my superiors and multiple inspectors general, and in effect becoming a whistleblower. As you know, I've suffered retaliation for my decision, but I am hopeful that my actions will ultimately lead to a positive outcome of increased transparency. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Commander Fravor?
I'm just, okay, so we got some other retirees, okay.
Momentum. As you know, my name is David Fravor. I'm a retired commander in the United States Navy. In 2004, I was a commanding officer of Strike Fighter Squadron 41, the world famous Black Aces. We were attached to Carrier Wing 11, stationed on board the USS Nimitz, and had begun a 2-month workup cycle off the coast of California. On this day, we were scheduled for a 2v2 air-to-air training with the USS Princeton as our control. When we launched off Nimitz, my wingman was joining up. We were told that the training was going to be suspended and we were going to proceed with real-world tasking. As we proceeded to the west, the air controller was counting down the range to an object that we were going to, and we were unaware of what we were going to see when we arrived. The controller had told us that these objects had been observed for over 2 weeks, coming down from over 80,000 feet, rapidly descending to 20,000 feet, hanging out for hours, and then going straight back up. For those who don't realize, above 80,000 feet is space. We arrived at the location at approximately 20,000 feet, and the controller called merge plot, which means that our radar blip was now in the same resolution cell as the contact. As we looked around, we noticed that we saw some whitewater off our right side. It's important to note that the weather on this day was as close to perfect as you could ask for off the coast of San Diego. Clear skies, light winds, calm seas, no whitecaps from waves. So the whitewater stood out in a large blue ocean. All 4 of us, because we were in F-18Fs, so we had pilots and Wizzo in the back seat, looked down saw a white tic-tac object with a longitudinal axis pointing north-south and moving very abruptly over the water like a ping pong ball. There were no rotors, no rotor wash, or any sign of visible control surfaces like wings. As we started clockwise towards the object, my Wizzo and I decided to go down and take a closer look with the other aircraft staying in high cover to observe both us and the tic-tac. We proceeded around the circle about 90 degrees from the start of our descent, and the object suddenly shifted its longitudinal axis, aligned it with my aircraft, and began to climb. We continued down another 270 degrees, nose low, where the tic-tac, or we considered 270 degrees to where, and we went nose low to where the tic-tac would have been. Our altitude at this point was about 15,000 feet, and the tic-tac was about 12,000. As we pulled nose onto the object, within about a half mile of it, it rapidly accelerated in front of us and disappeared. Our wingmen, roughly 8,000 feet above us, lost contact also. We immediately turned back to see where the whitewater was at, and it was gone also. So as we started to turn back towards the east, the controller came up and said, "Sir, you're not going to believe this, but that thing is at your cap point, roughly 60 miles away in less than a minute. You can calculate the speed." We returned to Nimitz. We were taking off our gear. We were talking to one of my crews that was getting ready to launch. We mentioned it to him, and they went out and luckily got the video that you see, that 90-second video. What you don't see is the radar tape that was never released, and we don't know where it's at, of the active jamming that the object put on an APG-73 radar, and I can get into modes later if you're interested. What is shocking to us is that the incident was never investigated. None of my crew were ever questioned. Tapes were never taken, and after a couple days, it turned into a great story with friends. It wasn't until 2009 till Jay Stratton had contacted me to investigate. Unbeknownst to all, he was part of the ATIP program in the Pentagon led by Lou Elizondo. And there was an official report that came out that's now on the internet. Years later, I was contacted by the other pilot, Alex Dietrich, and asked if I'd been contacted, and I said no, but I'm willing to talk. I was contacted by Mr. Elizondo, and we talked for a short period of time, and he said we'd be in contact. A few weeks after that, I was made aware that Lou had left the Pentagon in protest and joined forces with Tom DeLonge, Chris Mellon, Steve Justice, and others to form Two Stars Academy, an organization that pressed the issue with leading industry experts and U.S. government officials. They worked with Leslie Keane, who is present today, Ralph Blumenthal, and Helene Cooper to publish the articles in the New York Times 2017 New York Times. And it removed the stigma on the topic of UFOs, which is why we're here today. Those articles open the door for the government and public that cannot be closed. It has led to an interest from our elected officials who are not focused on little green men, but figuring out where these craft are, where are they from, the technology they possess, how do they operate. It also led to the Whistleblower Protection Act and the NDAA. There are multiple witnesses coming forward to say that have firsthand knowledge, and Mr. Grush just covered that. What concerns me is that there's no oversight from our elected officials on anything associated with our government processing or working on craft. believe not from this world. This issue is not a full public disclosure that could undermine national security, but it is about ensuring that our system of checks and balances works across all work done in the government using taxpayer funds. Relative to government programs, even unacknowledged WAVE programs have some level of oversight by the appropriate committee members in the House and Senate, and this work that is said to be occurring from whistleblower testimonies should not be exempt. In closing, I would like to say that the Tic-Tac object we engaged in 2004 was far superior to anything that we had on time, have today, or are looking to develop in the next 10 years. If we in fact have programs that possess this technology, it needs to have oversight from those people that the citizens of this great country elected in office to represent what is best for the United States and best for the citizens. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Wow. So, credible. This man seems credible. But this just sounds like Russia to me, because I know they got some Mach 9 technology. I know Russia got some aircraft that I heard cannot be intercepted by our Mach 6, 7. We're not quite to Mach 9 yet, and the way Russia likes to advance, they're probably beyond that. Non-detectable, speedy, and hard to intercept. So I think what they're saying should be taken seriously. If someone in the government knows what these things are, I think first and foremost, removing the stigma is an important matter, and it's amazing that the press can help with that. I just feel so honored to at least be throwing my hat in the ring to, disseminate news information, but even go from time to time to collect my own information. So, not sure if we have much time to get into the reparations conversation, but I think that would be a whole entire broadcast, because I want to dive deeper, not just into housing. So we'll definitely get back involved with that. I have everything ready to go. Got some other news stories that I'm working on. But with this particular situation of housing issues and homelessness in Los Angeles, and definitely most major cities are having similar experiences, I would just like to dive deeper into these recommendations. We've done so already on the broadcast. Wouldn't hurt to take another look and then maybe start adding on more issues, because I believe people said more than 1,000 pages. I didn't realize that. I know it's a lot of information. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of years of just acts of terrorism and just deliberate warfare, on racial, discrimination and prejudice, just racism just in general. So unfortunately, it's not something that's just a quick and easy read, quick and easy fix. It's going to take lots of recommendations, proposals, solutions. And then also, I have a story coming out this week, and we'll see how it gets picked up. But really ending poverty in California, ending poverty altogether. And for those that have ideas and solutions and how to get these things passed, I am always going to, just really feel that it's part of my work and my job to help get that information out as well, because these are things that really do affect those that I care about, people in my community. Maybe some of these news stories affect me as well. I'm going to wrap up, just again monitoring this. Will keep going. I'll pull some highlights, but that is pretty much the testimony. But we're going to go over to some international news, because in Sudan it's not looking good. So in Sudan, the port of Sudan is overwhelmed since the conflict broke out. The hospitals are devastated, overworked, exhausted, and I'm just keeping an eye on what's happening in Sudan. And the last we heard, that there were issues with kidnapping of women and children, and these rebel forces, unfortunately, are just not allowing people to get out safely. So that's why I'm really adamant about keeping up with the United Nations ambassador, our U.S. representative to the United Nations, also on the Security Council. And it's a lot of information that's rolling through that come out of these summits. And so I just like to really just edit, pick some of the top stories, anything that could be pertinent details to help the overall community at large, our global brothers and sisters across the way. And so, but the Port of Sudan, I'm trying to understand what's going on, the latest there as well, and getting some news information out about that. And let's keep the news stories going. Okay, so as you can see there, we're going to get back into what's going on there. And this is the medical center, and that happens a lot of times with warfare. The patients are not allowed to get proper care, and it's like a civil war, unfortunately. It's a civil war, so the people unfortunately are caught in the crossfire there. So that's my next story, reporting out what's going on in Sudan. And this is sad because this is like Sudanese people doing this to one another, and just this transition of power is not going smoothly. Unfortunately, that's why we do need measures in place.
Nahmat Khalifa was in the middle of a dialysis session in Khartoum when fighting broke out around the facility. She had to be rushed to safety. It was the beginning of a painful journey of displacement. By the time she made it to this treatment center in Port Sudan, she was in serious trouble.
My body was swollen after 15 days without blood cleaning. I would have died if they hadn't admitted me at this center.
But now the survival of the center itself hangs in the balance. Every day, up to 80 patients come here for dialysis, a procedure to remove waste and excess fluid from the blood because their kidneys aren't working properly. The clinic is treating 250 people, double its capacity before the conflict, free of charge. And each patient needs 2 sessions a week.
It's a strain on our machines. During the past 2 months, 11 of our 38 machines broke down. Most of them use old technology and need spare parts that we can't get because all the stock is in Khartoum.
Za'faran says the center is short on staff and running out of the special filters and solutions needed for dialysis treatment.
Without those items, we'll have to close. Also, due to the increase in activity, the generator is overloaded.
It's a similar situation at the pediatric and cancer hospitals. Government medical supplies warehouses are nearly empty. A number of pharmacies have shut down.
Since the conflict began, lots of aid organizations promised to help so we can continue to provide free treatment to cancer patients, but we haven't received anything.
Port Sudan is not the only city facing a medical crisis. The Ministry of Health says at least 100 hospitals and medical centers in Khartoum alone have stopped operating. And the situation in Darfur is even worse. Government officials and aid agencies meeting here to discuss possible solutions. Providing medical treatment is a priority, but it requires a ceasefire, as well as guarantees of safe passage for supplies and access to those in need.
So sad. So sad. Unfortunately, it's not looking. Sudan is not getting the peaceful transfer of power that so many were hoping for. I really wanted to see out of this region. And so the international community is paying attention. I know the United Nations ambassador mentioned it in her speech, and just some of her pillars, and just providing guidance and directive to where to focus our attention. So that's my international story that I'm keeping an eye on. And if we just check in like every so often, it'll be a lot of information. So I like to kind of just keep day to day what's going on as things are developing, lots of developing stories, and just keeping my eye out. And I really enjoy discussing the news, and this is my take. I try not to go too opinion based, and that's that. So this information is important. I wanted to wrap up kind of where we started, and this is again Donald Trump being indicted for January 6 charges, but I also wanted to draw some attention. Just a quick AP. They are talking about the judge that's been assigned to the case. So let's see what we got going on here. It looked like it's a black woman, but the last name is kind of giving some foreign vibes. So, Donald Trump, January 6th. All right. Let's see what we got going on here. And this is the judge. Things are still developing. This is the judge that's been assigned. What's fair is fair, but we've seen how some of the judges have been interfering with things, so it's unfortunate. So I think maybe the judge is relevant here to make sure that this is going to go, not into favor anybody, but just to remain objective.
I'm Michael Kunzelman. I'm a reporter for the Associated Press. I cover the January 6th
Hi.
prosecutions in Washington, D.C. And one of those cases is against Donald Trump, an election fraud case. That's his third indictment now. And the judge assigned to the case, her name is Tanya Chutkin. She's a veteran of the D.C. court system, first as a assistant public defender and now as a judge. She is one of about 24 judges who have been sentencing people involved in the January 6th riot. About 600 people have been sentenced so far, and about a third of them have avoided any sort of jail or prison time. But Judge Chutkin has handed out at least a prison sentence of several days up to several years to every single person that she has sentenced. And she has said that she believes that prison can be a powerful deterrent against the threat of another January 6th happening. So Judge Chutkin's already ruled against Donald Trump before in a case involving January 6th. This is back in 2021. She refused Trump's request to block the release of documents that were going to the House committee investigating January 6th. Mr. Trump was asserting executive privilege, but she rejected that argument and said that he could hold privilege over documents from his administration even after Joe Biden cleared the way for the National Archives to turn the papers over, but that doesn't exist in perpetuity. So Donald Trump's first court appearance for this January 6th case is scheduled for Thursday. The case will not be heard Thursday by Judge Chutkin. It will be heard by a magistrate judge. It will probably be a very brief appearance. It's something that every defendant does in the federal system. And this is at a courthouse that's within view of the Capitol. We don't know exactly when Judge Chutkin will get involved. These cases last months, and at some point, though, she's going to start ruling, I presume, on evidentiary matters, things that keep the case moving along towards the trial.
Good to know. Good to know. Oh, gosh, no. No, we're not doing that. Nope. That's good to know. Very interesting. Yeah, so I wanted to wrap up with that because of the hearing tomorrow, the things that are going on Thursday. And I want to keep up with that. So, of course, I'm always trying to do this broadcast more often. I really want to come in more frequently because things are exciting, they're happening, and this is very interesting. So this same judge has already sentenced other, defendants and those that were there on January 6th and attacked the Capitol. And then if you were listening to a lot of their testimonies on the way, they were saying, no, the president told us this. I don't know why they couldn't take it upon their own adulthood to, make a sound judgment that this might not be a good idea, but they believe that they were being directed by the president of the United States who abused his power to incite a riot. So that is so unfortunate. Yeah, so that's developing. That's still happening. That story's still going on. So we're gonna keep it going. I'm glad I got to get my story in about the evictions and things that are happening in and around Los Angeles with rent repayment. That's all I have for right now. We're trying to keep these broadcasts shorter and sweet and just get to the news because there's a lot more happening. And I'm going to keep sharing my stories. Check out Ella B Media Group. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe. I share content in so many different ways. I share content in a lot of different forms. So it'll be some news stories. Some of the things will be, there'll be print. It'll be blog postings, YouTube, Instagram. It'll be on my TikTok. We got another podcast and I'm so excited. Thank you to Madam Mayor Karen Bass with her continuum care for the homelessness. I am so thankful that she is really taking on the issues of homelessness seriously. Ooh, yes. I'm so thankful that she is opening up the Mayor's Fund and using it in a way that's responsible. She's using it in a way that really touches those who are most impacted. She's looking out for the future. So you guys, I've been covering Mayor Bass. I've been having a great time learning more about her and really just everything that's going on in Hollywood and Los Angeles. And then she's really coming in to make sure that the most disadvantaged groups have some level of support. Of course, there's things that, people are still going to complain about, but ultimately she's getting the job done. I'm happy, I'm satisfied. And again, preventing homelessness is the name of the game, and she gets it. We have smart politics. Finally, it seems like someone that really understands the will of the people. So thank you once again for tuning in, watching my videos, whether you listen live or later. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a heart. Give me a like, comment, share, subscribe, interact, DM, get involved. Let's do this. And you guys ever have any questions, get in contact. Let's talk. Let's chat. Let's do this. And then the next broadcast, we'll get deeper into the California Reparations Task Force, the recommendations there. We'll get deeper into just different issues. We're going to start with housing, and we're going to keep it going. There's a lot of information to discuss, but let's do it. Let's dig in. Let's get involved. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Until next time, take care and good luck.